Hi there. This video will explain the Internal Factor Evaluation Matrix or IFEM. What do we mean by internal factors? It refers to the organization's internal strengths and weaknesses. In evaluating a firm's internal factors, we need to conduct an internal assessment of the company. Internal assessment is concerned with identifying and developing an organization's resources and capabilities or competencies. Resources refers to an organization's assets, including its employees and brand. Capabilities is the firm's ability to exploit its resources, and this consists of business processes and routines that manage the interaction among resources to turn inputs into outputs. Strategies are designed in part to improve on a firm's weaknesses, turning them into strengths, and maybe even into distinctive competencies that can provide the firm with competitive advantages over rival firms. Firms may have their distinctive competencies. What do we mean by distinctive competencies? It is simply referring to a firm's strengths that cannot be easily matched or imitated by competitors. If you look at the diagram here on the process of gaining competitive advantage, a firm's weaknesses and strengths can be turned into their distinctive competencies towards gaining competitive advantage. Building competitive advantage involves taking advantage of distinctive competencies. Hence, in assessing the internal strengths and weaknesses of a firm, we need to look at their key functional areas. The diagram here shows the key functional areas in a typical business organization. Some organizations may not have all the functional areas. It may differ according to the industries they are in. Some companies may not have production, but they may have operations, or they may have accounting but not finance. Likewise, the HR area may fall under the management depending on the organization's structure. All organizations have strengths and weaknesses in the functional areas of business. No enterprise is equally strong or weak in all areas. The internal analysis will assess how each of the functional areas can affect the operations of an organization either directly or indirectly. Appropriate measures need to be taken to improve the performance of the organizations. We need to do the internal audit or assessment to know the strengths and weaknesses of a firm. In our class lecture, we have discussed the checklist of questions that we can use to assess the internal factors of a firm. These are some of the checklists. This is the marketing audit checklist, the finance accounting audit checklist, production operations checklist, the R&D audit checklist, and the management audit checklist. This checklist helps you to do the internal assessment of the company. For example, under the management checklist, one of the questions is, are company objectives and goals measurable and well communicated? So you need to assess this, and if yes, this can be the company's strength. Communication is important in any organization, and employees works effectively in a culture that have open or transparent communication between their management and staff. These are some examples of a firm's strengths and weaknesses based on the key functional areas. So, how do we prepare the IFEM? These are the steps that we can follow. First, you need to identify the internal factors, as many factors as you can. For the purpose of the assignment, you can list 10 factors each. The next step is assigning a weight that ranges from 0.0, not important, to 1.0, all important, to each factor. The sum of the weights must be 1.0. Next, assign a 1 to 4 rating to each factor to indicate whether that factor represents a minor or major strength or weaknesses. So you can see the list here from 1 and 2 refer to the weaknesses. So number 1 is major weakness, 2 is minor weakness, and 3 and 4 refers to the strength, rating for the strength. So 3 is a minor strength and 4 is a major strength. The first step is to multiply each factor's weight by its rating to determine a weighted score. Finally, you need to total the weighted scores for each factor to determine the total weighted score for the organization. Just now we have discussed the 5 steps on how to construct the IFEM. So here we have this diagram, this IFEM matrix from the textbook. If you look at this box, this is the first step. You need to list 8 to 10 or as many as you can on the strength and on the factors for strength and weaknesses. So here for this company, retail computer store, we have 9 strengths and 8 weaknesses. Okay, so this is the strengths and this is the weaknesses. Okay, now we go to this column, the weight. So we need to assign, this is the second step, we need to assign a weight. So this weight ranges from 0.0 to 1.0. 0.0 stands for not important, range 0.0 is not important, ranging from not important to 1.0 important. And the total here must be 1.0. It cannot be more than 1.0. The third step is on the rating. So you need to assign a 1 to 4 rating to each factor to indicate how effective the firm's current strategies respond to the factor. For the strengths, you need to rate the strengths as 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 And for the weaknesses, you need to rate as 1 or 2. So the 3 stands for minor strength and 4 is a major strength. Likewise, for the weaknesses, 1 is a major weakness and 2 is a minor weakness. So that is on the rating. For the weighted score, this column, this is the weighted score obtained from this weight column and the rating column. So this column multiply the rating column and you will get the weighted score. So the total weighted score is 2.50, and this score indicates the company's current performance in terms of profitability and market share. So from this matrix, how do we interpret the internal position of the company? So you need to focus on this total weighted score. The total weighted score column, as I've mentioned, can range from 1.0 to 4.0 with the average score of 2.5. If the score is below 2.5, the company is weak internally, whereas score above 2.5 indicates a strong internal position. In this case, this company has a score of 2.5. That indicates an average internal position. So this is how you construct the IFEM and how to interpret the total weighted score. So you might ask, what values does the IFE matrix take? So just now I mentioned that the average score is 2.5. So why is the average 2.5 and not 2.0, since we are using the 1 to 4 rating? So we will explain this using this example. You have 4 factors and each has an average weight of 0.25. And the factors have the following rating: 1, 4, 1, and 4. This will result in individual weighted scores of 0.25, 1, 0.25, and 1 for factors 1 through 4. If you add them up, you will get total IFE matrix weighted score 2.5, which is also the average in this case. So this is the interpretation for the total weighted scores. So if it is below 2.5, it points to a internally weak business. If it is above 2.5, it indicates a strong internal position. So we have come to the end of our presentation on IFE matrix. Before I go, I just want to recommend you to go to this site. This site will give you a lot of information about how to construct IFE matrix. So until then, I'll see you in my next video on IFEM.